Get your cheap ass out of my boutique before I call the cops." The vicious words cut through the atmosphere of the high-end Eclatante flagship boutique. Mason Carter's palm connected with Isabella Rossi's cheek in a stark slap that made 40 patrons gasp and stop in their tracks. Cell phones emerged from purses and pockets like weapons drawn in unison. Children stared wide-eyed as their mothers pulled them closer. The security cameras blinked red overhead, capturing every second of the assault. Isabella stood motionless, her hand touching the burning skin on her face. Her bespoke wool coat remained perfectly draped. Her luxury leather attaché case never left her grip. Not a single word escaped her lips, but something menacing flickered behind her eyes. The crowd held its collective breath, waiting for her next move. Have you ever witnessed someone make a mistake so monumental that you knew their entire world was about to implode? 10 minutes earlier, Isabella Rossi had walked into Eclatante with one simple goal: return a defective $4,500 timepiece and speak with corporate about the boutique's quality assurance issues. She'd purchased the Swiss-made piece 3 days ago, only to discover a faulty clasp and a scratch on the crystal that betrayed shoddy craftsmanship. The Chicago flagship boutique, located on the Magnificent Mile, buzzed with Tuesday evening energy. Affluent shoppers perused displays of haute couture, while associates glided nearby, ready to assist. The polished granite floors shone under modern LED chandeliers, and ambient electronic music played through invisible speakers. Isabella approached the customer relations desk, where a young associate with an elaborate hairstyle looked up with practiced charm. "How may I help you today?" "I need to return this timepiece and speak with your manager about a quality issue." Isabella placed the designer watch on the counter, her voice composed and professional. The associate's smile wavered as she inspected Isabella's receipt. "Well, returns on our premier items require manager approval." Her tone shifted, becoming discernibly colder. "But he's extremely busy right now." "I'll wait." 20 minutes passed. Isabella observed as other patrons received prompt service while she was pointedly ignored. A man with a similar return was handled in under 5 minutes. Another was given a full refund, plus a store credit for his trouble. Finally, Mason Carter emerged from a back office, 38 years old, with slicked back hair and a designer suit that couldn't conceal his overpowering cologne. He looked Isabella over with obvious disdain. "What seems to be the problem here?" He didn't establish eye contact, focusing instead on the timepiece as if it had personally wronged him. "I purchased this 3 days ago. The workmanship is substandard for a luxury product. I'd like to return it and discuss this quality issue with your corporate office." Mason's laugh was brittle and dismissive. "Ma'am, you probably damaged this yourself trying to show it off. We can't accept merchandise that's been mishandled by customers." Isabella's phone vibrated, the screen illuminated with an alert. Board call 6:30 p.m. She had exactly 10 minutes to resolve this and get to the corporate office 8 blocks away. "Sir, I haven't damaged anything. The scratch was present when I purchased it." "Your quality control? My quality control?" Mason stepped nearer, his voice escalating. "Listen, we don't serve people who buy fancy things they can't afford, then try to bring them back when buyer's remorse sets in." Other shoppers started to take notice of the disturbance. A few drew out their phones, anticipating drama. Isabella remained perfectly composed, her professional bearing unbroken despite the escalating insult. "I can afford this timepiece, sir. I simply expect quality commensurate with the price." "Sure you can." Mason's gaze swept over her contemptuously. "Let me guess, maxed out credit cards? Trying to impress someone at your little job? We see your kind all the time." The crowd swelled. A style influencer named Leo Maxwell initiated a live stream, whispering to his 15,000 followers, "Y'all, something wild is going down at Eclatante right now. This manager is being completely out of line with this woman." Comments poured in instantly. "What's happening? This is disgusting. Get his name. Record everything." Isabella glanced at her Patek Philippe, a custom model worth more than Mason's annual salary. "I need to speak with your corporate office now." "Corporate?" Mason guffawed. "You think the main office cares about some random customer issue? Lady, they pay me to handle people like you." He crossed his arms, intentionally obstructing her path to the desk. Two associates, Claire and Ben, stood by him like timid backup singers, their expressions a mix of discomfort and a refusal to get involved. "Problems like me?" Isabella's voice stayed even, but a frigid edge crept into her tone. "Yeah, people who think they deserve the red carpet just because they wander into a nice store. This isn't a department store. We have standards." Leo's live stream hit 10,000 simultaneous viewers. The comment section went into overdrive. "Fire him." "What's the boutique manager's name?" "It's 2028 and this is still a thing? Screen record this, people." Another shopper, a woman in her 60s, intervened. "Excuse me, young man, but you're being incredibly disrespectful to this customer." Mason whirled around. "Ma'am, with all due respect, stay out of it. This woman is trying to defraud us." "Defraud you?" Isabella's Onyx Reserve card was briefly visible as she adjusted her grip on her attaché case. The sleek, black card was unmistakable to those familiar with high-level spending. Only clients who charged over $350,000 annually were invited to carry the exclusive card. But Mason either failed to notice or failed to comprehend its meaning. "Yeah, defraud. Buying high-end items, breaking them, then demanding their money back. We see it constantly with—" He paused, his eyes narrowing. "People like you." The racist insinuation was no longer veiled. It poisoned the air. Leo's stream surged to 20,000 viewers. Screenshots were flying on social media. Other influencers began their own recordings from new perspectives. Isabella's phone buzzed once more. Urgent. Board call moved to 6:45 p.m. She had 5 minutes. "Sir, I am asking you one last time. Please process my return and put me in contact with corporate." "And I'm telling you one last time, no." Mason stepped closer still, breaching her personal space. "Maybe you should try shopping somewhere more suited to your station." The crowd gasped audibly. This was no longer about a faulty watch. It was about dignity, respect, and the grim reality of retail prejudice that persisted in luxury environments. Isabella remained utterly still, her dark eyes scanning Mason's face as if committing every feature to memory. The attaché case in her hand seemed to gain weight, filled with secrets that could alter the course of the evening. But Mason Carter had no clue what kind of tempest he was about to summon. The tension in Eclatante grew thick, like the fog rolling off Lake Michigan. What began as a simple return had morphed into a public spectacle, pulling in shoppers from every part of the 3-level flagship boutique. District Director Evelyn Reed got the urgent call while reviewing quarterly numbers in her River North office. "Ma'am, we've got a situation at Boutique 22. The manager there's a confrontation with a customer. It's going viral." Evelyn's stomach plunged. Boutique 22 was their jewel, the Chicago flagship that pulled in $20 million a year. "I'm on my way." Meanwhile, Mason's hostility intensified. "Security!" he shouted, his voice bouncing off the granite floors. "We need this person escorted out, immediately." 2 security officers approached with caution. David Chen, a seasoned officer with 15 years in retail security, paused when he observed Isabella's unflustered demeanor. Something about her tranquility in the face of such animosity seemed off. "Sir, what's the issue?" David asked, his professional eye assessing the whole scene. "This woman is creating a disturbance. She's attempting to return broken merchandise and made threats when we declined." Isabella's eyebrow arched just so. the first fissure in her stoic facade. Threats? I have not threatened anyone. The crowd murmured its assent. Leo's livestream had skyrocketed to 30,000 viewers, with comments scrolling by too quickly to read. She's not threatening anyone. This manager is a liar. Someone call the news. Get his name and get him fired. A social media thread by Hunter Chicago-style Sentinel was picking up speed. Thread: witnessing overt racism at Eclatant official's Mag Mile flagship. Boutique manager Mason Carter just slapped a customer of color trying to return a defective timepiece. It's 2028. This is unacceptable. Eclatant official sucture retail racism. The post already had 700 shares and was growing. Evelyn Reed rushed through the boutique entrance, her heels striking the granite as she took in the crowd. 70 people now encircled the customer relations area, their phones held aloft like modern-day torches. "What is going on here?" Evelyn demanded, her commanding voice slicing through the tense murmurs. Mason adjusted his tie, suddenly self-assured again. "Evelyn, thank goodness. This person became hostile when we denied her fraudulent return. She threatened me and my team." Evelyn's gaze swept over the crowd, noting the dozens of recording phones. Her PR instincts took over. Whatever transpired here was going to be meticulously analyzed across the internet within the hour. "Ma'am," Evelyn said to Isabella with professional courtesy, "I'm sorry for any misunderstanding. I'm Evelyn Reed, the district director. Perhaps we can step into my office and resolve this privately." "There's nothing to resolve privately," Isabella stated, her voice resonating through the silent boutique. "Your manager just assaulted me in front of 70 witnesses. This is no longer a customer service dispute." The word assaulted rippled through the onlookers. Several people edged closer, hungry for every word. "Now hold on," Mason cut in, his face flushing. "She's blowing this way out of proportion. I hardly touched her, and only because she was getting aggressive." "I have video evidence that says differently," Leo shouted from the crowd, brandishing his phone. 30,000 people just saw you slap this woman for asking to return a watch." Evelyn's blood pressure surged. 30,000 witnesses to a possible felony? The legal liability alone was career-ending. "Sir," David, the security officer, said quietly to Mason, "maybe you should step back and let the director handle this." But Mason was too committed to his course of action to reverse now. "No, I will not be intimidated by some entitled customer who comes in here to disrupt my boutique. She probably bought this timepiece at some knockoff stand and is trying to return it for a full refund." The accusation hovered in the air, a verbal grenade. Isabella's fingers tightened on her attaché case handle, almost imperceptibly. "Mr. Carter," Evelyn hissed under her breath, "please, stop talking." But Mason was on a tirade, his voice amplifying as his audience expanded. "You want the truth? People like her think they can bully us with social media and manufactured outrage. Well, I have news for you. This is private property, and I have the right to refuse service to anyone." A woman in the crowd yelled back, "You can't refuse service based on race." "Who said anything about race?" Mason's defensive tone exposed his guilt. "This is about conduct, about respect, about knowing your place." The phrase "knowing your place" elicited a collective gasp. Even Evelyn Reed shut her eyes in resignation, knowing that phrase would be a headline within minutes. Isabella checked her watch again. The board call had begun, but she had a feeling this was more critical than quarterly earnings. "My place?" she echoed, her voice so soft that people had to strain to hear. "And where, precisely, do you believe my place is, Mr. Carter?" "Look, lady, I don't know what con you're running." "It's not a con." Isabella's interjection was quiet, but final. "And I would advise you to choose your next words with extreme care." The crowd felt the power shift. Something in the dynamic between the two had fundamentally changed, though no one could articulate what it was. A local news blogger in the crowd, Ethan Hayes, saw the viral storm and began his own live feed. This is Ethan Hayes from Windy City Witness, and I'm watching what might just be the customer service meltdown of the year at Eclatante. The boutique's corporate communications department was already fielding calls. The stock price for Rossi Holdings International, Eclatante's parent company, took its first small dip as trading algorithms flagged negative social media sentiment. Mason, ignorant of the greater forces now in motion, pressed on with his rant. You people come in here with your attitudes, demanding special treatment, thinking the world owes you something. Well, I've got news for you, it doesn't. Evelyn Reed knew her career was likely finished. In high-end retail, viral scandals involving racism were professional death sentences. She had to mitigate the damage. Mr. Carter, you are suspended, effective immediately. Please go to the back office. Suspended? Mason's voice cracked. For what? For doing my job? For upholding our standards? For assaulting a customer, Evelyn snapped, her composure finally shattering. The crowd roared with approval, but Isabella remained motionless, observing the chaos swirling around her as if she were analyzing a fascinating specimen. Her phone vibrated with a text from her assistant. Emergency board meeting postponed. Social media crisis unfolding. Need you ASAP. Isabella glanced at the message, then at Mason Carter's increasingly panicked expression, then at the 70 people documenting every second of his professional demise. A faint smile touched the corners of her lips, the first display of emotion since she had entered the boutique 30 minutes ago. Mr. Carter, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the silent boutique. I believe it's time we had a proper discussion about standards. The silence in Eclatante was absolute. 70 people held their breath as Isabella Rossi slowly unfastened her leather attaché case with the deliberate care of a bomb disposal expert. Mason Carter's bravado finally faltered. There was something in her movements, too calm, too deliberate, that tripped alarms in his nervous system. Evelyn Reed moved closer, her director-level instincts screaming that this situation was about to veer into uncharted territory. Standards, Isabella reiterated, her voice projecting across the granite-floored boutique like a gavel strike. Let's talk about standards, Mr. Carter. From her case, she removed a leather-bound portfolio with gold leaf lettering. The crowd surged forward, phones straining to capture the imminent revelation. Do you know what actual standards look like? Isabella asked, opening the portfolio to reveal official corporate reports. They look like quarterly performance reviews that place Boutique 22 in the bottom 20% for customer satisfaction. Mason's face turned ashen. Where did you get those? They look like discrimination complaints lodged against this very location. She turned a page, her voice gaining strength. 17 formal complaints in the last 8 months, all from minority customers, all summarily dismissed by management. Evelyn Reed felt her knees weaken. Those complaints were privileged corporate files, accessible only to top executives and legal counsel. They look like impending employment lawsuits. Another page turned. Sexual harassment settlements, denied workers' comp claims, OSHA violations buried in paperwork. The crowd murmured, shocked. Leo's live stream had hit 45,000 viewers, with the comment section on fire. How does she have those reports? Who is this woman? This is insane! Mason's voice trembled. You can't have those files. Those are private company records. Isabella looked up from the portfolio, her dark eyes locking with his for the first time since the slap. You are entirely correct, Mr. Carter. They are private company documents. She reached into her attaché case again, this time producing a business card case made of titanium and carbon fiber. The crowd watched, mesmerized, as she selected a single card and held it between 2 fingers. I am Isabella Rossi, she declared, her voice resonating through the stunned boutique. Chief Executive Officer of Rossi Holdings International. The card drifted to the granite floor between them, a final white flag. The reaction was immediate and volcanic. Gasps ricocheted through the space. Phones were nearly fumbled from nerveless hands. Someone in the crowd breathed, "Oh my God," and the whisper spread like a contagion. Mason's mouth worked, but no sound came out. His eyes flashed from the business card to Isabella's face, then to Evelyn Reed, who looked as if she was about to collapse. Rossi Holdings International, the parent conglomerate that owned Eclatante, the corporate titan controlling 950 luxury retail locations across the Americas. The corporation whose CEO he had just physically assaulted in front of 70 witnesses and over 50,000 live stream viewers. That's not possible, Mason stuttered. You can't be. The woman you just called cheap? Isabella's voice was perfectly level. The woman whose place you seem to know so well? The woman you assaulted for trying to return a substandard product in a boutique that I own? Evelyn Reed's training finally overrode her shock, and she dropped to one knee to pick up the business card. Her hands trembled as she read the engraved text. Isabella Rossi, Chief Executive Officer, Rossi Holdings International. The logo was identical to the one in her own corporate manual. "Ms. Rossi," Evelyn whispered, her career flashing before her. "I had no idea. If I had only known—" "If you had known, you would have treated me with basic decency?" Isabella's question sliced through Evelyn. "So the sole reason to treat customers with respect is the possibility they might be your superior?" The philosophical weight of her question settled over the room. The crowd understood the profound truth. Respect should not be conditional on status or wealth. Mason's fight-or-flight instinct finally engaged. "Ms. Rossi, this is all a profound misunderstanding. I didn't know." "You didn't know what, exactly?" Isabella asked, her tone lethally quiet. "You didn't know that women of color deserve human dignity? You didn't know that assault is a crime, irrespective of the victim's net worth?" Ethan Hayes from Windy City Witness spoke urgently into his phone. "This is unprecedented. The CEO of a major international corporation was just assaulted by one of her own managers. This is going to be global news." Meanwhile, the corporate communications team at Rossi Holdings International headquarters was in full-blown crisis mode. Emergency calls were being arranged. Stock analysts were being placated. Legal teams were being scrambled. The live stream viewership had exploded to over 120,000 across multiple platforms. Eclatante scandal was trending worldwide. Isabella reached into her attaché case one last time, pulling out a tablet displaying real-time social media analytics and stock tickers. "In the last 30 minutes, she announced to the crowd, Rossi Holdings International stock has fallen 14%. Our market capitalization has shrunk by $3.5 billion. Our brand's reputation index has plunged to critical levels." Mason's knees gave way. $3.5 billion. The figure was so vast his mind couldn't grasp it. "But that isn't the most telling metric," Isabella went on, her finger gliding across the tablet's screen. "The most telling metric is that this event is being broadcast live to 150,000 people across 8 different platforms. It's been shared 20,000 times on social media. Local news crews are on their way." She turned the tablet so the crowd could see the digital firestorm in real time. Comments were pouring in faster than anyone could read. "Fire everyone. Boycott Eclatante. Sue them into the ground. This CEO is a legend." "Mr. Carter," Isabella said, her voice cutting through the digital noise, "do you grasp what you have done? You didn't just slap a customer. You didn't just assault a woman of color. You committed a felony against the chief executive officer of your parent company in front of over 100,000 witnesses." The legal ramifications hit Mason like a physical blow. Assault and battery charges, civil rights violations, a potential hate crime investigation. His entire life was disintegrating in real time. But Isabella was not done. "Ms. Reed," she addressed the district director, who was still kneeling on the granite floor, clutching the business card like a death sentence. "How long have you been aware of the discrimination complaints against this boutique?" Evelyn's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Any answer was a potential landmine. 8 months? A year? Longer? Isabella's questions were like surgical strikes. How many customers of color were mistreated while you looked the other way? How many employees have been harassed while you shielded the harassers? The crowd watched the corporate food chain implode. First Mason, now Evelyn. The systemic nature of the rot was becoming painfully clear. David, the security officer, stepped forward. "Ms. Rossi, for what it's worth, I have seen this happen before. Good people treated poorly because of what they look like. I've wanted to say something, but—" "You were afraid for your job," Isabella finished. "I understand, David. That is precisely the culture that ends today." She closed the tablet and returned it to her attaché case with the same meticulous care she had used to reveal it. The crowd stayed rapt as Isabella pulled out her phone. The device was clearly a custom piece, with advanced security features and direct lines to her executive team. "Chloe," she spoke into the phone, her voice echoing through the silent boutique. "It's Isabella. Yes, I'm still at Boutique 22. No, the board meeting is the least of our worries." The crowd leaned in, straining to catch the conversation that would seal the fate of everyone present. "I need you to connect me with legal, immediately. We have a code red incident. Employee assault on corporate leadership. Yes, you heard me correctly. Full documentation, media containment protocols activated. And Chloe, clear my schedule for the rest of the week. We're going to be busy." She ended the call and looked directly at Mason, whose face was now a mask of gray despair. "Mr. Carter, in approximately 10 minutes, my legal team will be here. They will be accompanied by officers from the Chicago Police Department, who will take your official statement regarding the assault you committed. You have until their arrival to decide how you wish to proceed." Mason's voice was a whisper. What are you saying?" "I'm saying you have 2 options," Isabella replied, her tone all business. "Option 1. You cooperate fully with the investigation, confess to your actions, agree to immediate termination, and pray that your cooperation has a mitigating effect on the criminal charges you will be facing." The word "criminal" sent another shockwave through the crowd. This was now far beyond a simple firing. Option 2. You continue to deny and deflect, which will compel us to prosecute this matter to the fullest extent of the law. Assault and battery, civil rights violations, and potential hate crime enhancements, given the racial nature of your remarks. Evelyn Reed finally found her voice. "Ms. Rossi, surely we can handle this internally." Isabella's gaze snapped to Evelyn with unnerving precision. "Ms. Reed, you were present when your subordinate committed a felony. You witnessed his racial slurs. You have admitted knowledge of systemic discrimination complaints that were ignored. You are in no position to negotiate anything." The raw, brutal reality of corporate accountability was on full display. These were not just HR issues. They were criminal offenses that would decimate careers and could lead to prison sentences. Mason slumped into a nearby chair, the full weight of his actions finally breaking his spirit. "I need a lawyer." "That would be wise," Isabella concurred. "But let me be clear. Your assault was witnessed by over 100,000 people and recorded from multiple angles. The evidence is irrefutable. Your only choice now is how much more pain you wish to inflict upon yourself." The boutique had become a crime scene, a courtroom, and a boardroom rolled into one. And Isabella Rossi stood at the very center, no longer the victim of prejudice, but the master architect of justice. 10 minutes later, the flagship boutique had transformed into a corporate command center. Isabella's legal team descended like a tactical unit, 3 lawyers in sharp suits carrying briefcases that likely cost more than Mason's car. Behind them, 2 CPD officers entered with the calm authority of professionals who had witnessed the full spectrum of human folly. The crowd had grown to over 110 people, with more pressing against the glass from the outside. Leo's live stream peaked at 200,000 concurrent viewers, while news vans from several local affiliates pulled up to the curb. Detective Michael Ramirez, a 15-year veteran accustomed to high-stakes cases, approached Isabella with professional deference. "Ms. Rossi, I'm Detective Ramirez. We understand there's been an assault?" "Yes, Detective. At approximately 6:15 p.m., Mr. Carter struck me across the face, following a series of racially motivated comments. The entire event has been recorded by numerous witnesses." Isabella's composure was extraordinary. She spoke as if she were discussing market projections, not a violent crime against her person. Lead counsel Eleanor Vance stepped forward, her presence radiating authority. "Detective, we have a comprehensive digital evidence package for you, video from at least 8 different sources, including the boutique's own security feed. Audio recordings have captured the racial epithets, and we have over 100 witnesses prepared to give statements." Mason Carter sat in a corner chair like a discarded puppet, his designer suit now a mess of wrinkles, his face chalk white. The lawyer he had frantically called was caught in downtown traffic, leaving him to face the corporate execution squad alone. Detective Ramirez pulled out his tablet. "Mr. Carter, I need to read you your rights." "Wait," Mason interrupted, his voice frail. "Before we do that, can I please speak with Ms. Rossi?" All eyes shifted to Isabella. Vance gave a slight shake of her head, a silent warning against engaging with the assailant. "You have 2 minutes," Isabella said, "and Detective Ramirez will remain present." Mason stumbled to his feet, his hands trembling. "Ms. Rossi, I made a catastrophic mistake. I know I can't take back what I did, but I need you to know that I'm not— I didn't mean— You didn't mean to be racist," Isabella's question sliced through his stammering apology, "or you didn't mean to get caught." The distinction was surgical, highlighting intent versus consequence, character versus circumstance. "I don't know," Mason confessed, tears welling in his eyes. "I think I've just been so angry for so long, I stopped seeing people. My wife left me, my kids won't speak to me. I was passed over for a promotion 3 times, and I took it out on customers I thought couldn't fight back." The confession was raw, a man deconstructing his own life in public. "So you specifically targeted minority customers because you assumed we were easy targets?" Isabella's voice remained even, but her words carried the weight of historical injustice. Yes, I think I did, and I despise myself for it." The candor was startling, but Isabella had seen enough in her years of leadership to spot manipulation dressed as vulnerability. "Mr. Carter, your personal issues are not an excuse for assault. Your professional disappointments do not justify racism, and your tears do not erase the harm you've inflicted on countless customers." She gestured to her tablet, which now displayed real-time data. "In the past hour, we've received 920 emails from customers detailing their experiences in this specific boutique. Stories of humiliation, discrimination, and disrespect. Your actions were not an isolated incident. They were part of a pattern." Attorney Vance handed Isabella a thick binder. "Ms. Rossi, we've compiled the data you requested. The financial impact analysis is complete." Isabella opened the binder, preparing to read the numbers that would decide Mason's fate and the boutique's future. Boutique 22 generates $20.5 million in annual revenue, she announced, her voice like a prosecutor laying out the evidence. However, once we account for the cost of discrimination lawsuits, settlement payouts, employee churn, and loss of customer loyalty, the net profit falls to just $3.2 million. Evelyn Reed, who had been deathly silent, suddenly grasped the implications. The flagship was profitable, but precariously so. A major legal battle could easily push it into the red. Furthermore, Isabella continued, our brand reputation analysis indicates that this single incident has already resulted in an estimated $55 million in lost market value. Social media sentiment is at an all-time low. 4 major corporate partners have already suspended their contracts, pending the outcome of our investigation. The financial fallout was breathtaking. Mason's brief, violent act of prejudice had inflicted more monetary damage than many corporate blunders. Detective Ramirez stepped forward. Mr. Hutchinson, based on the evidence presented and witness statements, I'm placing you under arrest for battery. Wait. Mason's voice cracked with desperation. Ms. Rossi, please. I'll do anything. I'll resign, make a public apology, donate to charity. Please don't let this ruin my entire life. Isabella regarded his face for a long moment. The crowd held its breath, wondering if mercy would prevail over justice. Mr. Carter, you're asking me to show you a compassion you never showed anyone who looks like me. You're pleading for a forgiveness you denied your victims. Do you not see the profound irony? She closed the binder and handed it back to Vance. But here is what I will do. I will offer you something you never offered to them. A choice. The crowd leaned in, sensing a pivotal moment. Option 1. You proceed with the arrest, face criminal charges, and we initiate civil litigation for the full extent of the damages. Your name will become a case study for corporate racism. Your career will be over. Your family will endure public humiliation for years to come. Mason's shoulders slumped. Option 2. You agree to become the first case study for our new corporate reform initiative. You will participate in 200 hours of intensive racial bias and sensitivity training. You will make public appearances, speaking to business schools and corporations about the tangible costs of discrimination. You will work with our legal and HR departments to help us identify and dismantle systemic racism within our own company. The unexpected offer sent a wave of murmurs through the crowd. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reform. In exchange, Isabella continued, we will petition to have the charges reduced to a misdemeanor. You will avoid incarceration, and you will have an opportunity to rebuild your life around something constructive. Vance looked surprised. This was not the scorched earth tactic most CEOs would employ. Isabella's voice hardened. However, should you violate any part of this agreement, if you ever speak ill of this process, or if you ever again discriminate against another human being, we will release every file, every video, every piece of evidence we have gathered and pursue the maximum legal penalties available. Mason wiped tears from his face. Why? Why would you give me another chance after what I did? Because punishment without education is just vengeance, Isabella replied. And because real-life stories of change like yours will have more power to prevent future incidents than any prison sentence. She turned to the crowd, her voice carrying clearly to the 280,000 people now watching online. This isn't about forgiveness or being the bigger person. This is about understanding that systemic problems require systemic solutions. Firing one racist manager doesn't end racism, but transforming one might prevent 100 future incidents. The crowd erupted in applause. The live stream comments exploded with praise. Detective Ramirez looked to Isabella. Ms. Rossi, are you willing to modify the charges if he agrees? I am, but I want his agreement on the record, witnessed by everyone. Mason looked at the cameras, the crowd, the lawyers, the police. His life had imploded in 90 minutes, yet he was being offered a narrow path toward redemption. "I agree," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I agree to all of it." Vance handed him a tablet with a binding legal agreement preloaded. "Sign here, Mr. Carter, and understand this is a legally enforceable contract." As Mason signed, Isabella turned to Evelyn Reed, who had been standing frozen. "Ms. Reed, you also have a choice to make, but unlike Mr. Carter, your terms are not negotiable." The district director's career hung by a thread, awaiting judgment from the woman whose power she had failed to recognize until it was far too late. The corporate overhaul started at that moment. Within 2 hours, Isabella Rossi had begun the process of converting Boutique 22 from a symbol of retail bigotry into the epicenter of systemic change for the entire Rossi Holdings International empire. Evelyn Reed stood before Isabella, a defendant awaiting her sentence. The regional director's 15-year career was on the line, and her corporate manual offered no precedent for this situation. "Ms. Reed," Isabella began, her voice imbued with the authority of a self-made titan, "you presided over a boutique with 17 discrimination complaints in 8 months. You failed to act on clear evidence of systemic bias. You fostered a toxic culture through what can only be described as willful blindness." Evelyn's mouth was dessert dry. The crowd around them continued to film, aware they were witnessing a new form of corporate justice. "However," Isabella continued, "terminating you is the easy way out. It would generate positive headlines, appease the social media mob, and ultimately change nothing about the core issues." She nodded to her legal team, who produced another thick binder. "Instead, you're being reassigned. Effective immediately, you will lead our new diversity, equity, and inclusion implementation division. Your primary role will be to identify and eradicate discriminatory practices across all 950 of our boutiques. Your performance bonuses will be tied directly to customer satisfaction scores from minority communities." The assignment was a stroke of genius in its poetic justice, forcing Evelyn to fix the very problem she had allowed to fester. "You will report directly to Dr. David Chen, our new Chief Equity Officer, who begins on Monday. Your first task is to oversee the development of the Rossi Respect customer feedback platform, a direct line from our customers to the executive suite, completely bypassing local management." Eleanor Vance handed Evelyn a tablet displaying the app's technical blueprint. "The platform goes live in 30 days. Customers will be able to report instances of discrimination in real time with automatic escalation to C-suite executives. Every single report will receive a formal response within 24 hours. The crowd murmured its approval. This wasn't just a punishment, it was a preventative measure. "Furthermore," Isabella announced to the entire boutique, "we are rolling out immediate changes across all Rossi Holdings International properties. Starting tomorrow, every location will feature new signage. All customers deserve dignity, respect, and exceptional service. Period. Report any deviation directly to corporate via the Rossi Respect app." Leo continued his live stream, now reaching 250,000 viewers. The comments were overwhelmingly positive. Systemic change in action. This is how you solve the problem. Education, not just elimination. Isabella then turned to David, the security officer who had shown professional integrity. "David, I would like to offer you a position within our new customer experience division. Your role would be to train all security personnel across our network in bias awareness and de-escalation strategies." David's eyes widened. "Ma'am, Yes, absolutely, yes." The on-the-spot promotion drew another round of applause. Rewarding integrity while reforming prejudice, the message was potent. "The changes do not end there," Isabella said, consulting her tablet. We are launching a $30 million customer integrity fund to compensate any individual who has faced discrimination in our establishments. All claims will be assessed by an independent review board co-chaired by civil rights attorneys. She swiped to a new screen. We are also instituting mandatory, ongoing bias training for all 18,000 employees. Not a one-off seminar, but a continuous education program developed in partnership with the Advancement Initiative and the Harmony Foundation. The financial commitment was enormous, but Isabella knew that authentic change required a substantial investment. Additionally, we are diversifying our entire supply chain. Within 24 months, 45% of our vendor contracts will be with minority and women-owned businesses. We are not just changing how we treat our customers, we are changing who we do business with. Attorney Vance stepped forward with the final pieces of documentation. Boutique 22 will be closed for 1 week as all staff undergo intensive retraining. Upon reopening, it will serve as our flagship for diversity and inclusion, a model for the entire company. The irony was perfect. The store that had epitomized corporate racism would now become its model for reform. Isabella's phone buzzed with an update from headquarters. Our stock has already recovered 10% in the last hour. Social media sentiment is shifting from outrage to cautious optimism. This is what happens when a company chooses transformation over mere damage control. She looked around the boutique at the 110 people who had witnessed this corporate coup. Real-life stories like what happened here today do not have to end in ruin. They can end in reconstruction, building better systems, better training, and better cultures. Mason Carter, still processing his vertiginous fall and the unexpected chance for atonement, approached Isabella one last time. Ms. Rossi, I know I don't deserve this opportunity, but I swear to you, I will spend the rest of my life proving that people can change. Mr. Carter, I am not giving you this opportunity because you deserve it, Isabella stated. I am giving it to you because our other customers deserve better. Your transformation is not about your redemption. It is about their protection. The distinction was vital. This wasn't about personal forgiveness. It was about public prevention. As the crowd finally began to thin, Isabella's assistant arrived with a change of clothes and a waiting car. The CEO had to get back to headquarters to oversee the implementation of policies that would impact millions of customers across the continent. But first, she had one final statement for the cameras that were still rolling. Today demonstrated that painful stories of discrimination do not have to remain just stories. They can become the catalysts for profound, meaningful change. Minority stories, real-life stories, and all stories of injustice matter most when they inspire systemic transformation. The revolution was only just beginning. 8 months later, the transformation was undeniable. Boutique 22 had become a case study for retail executives learning about corporate social responsibility. The Rossi Respect app had over 2.5 million downloads and a 4.8-star rating, with customer satisfaction scores up by 70% across all Rossi Holdings international properties. Brad Hutchinson stood before a rapt audience at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, sharing his story as a key part of Isabella's corporate accountability initiative. His 200 hours of bias training had become a full-time calling, speaking at universities, conferences, and community centers about the true cost of prejudice. I was a mid-level manager who confused power with putting people down, he told the room of future executives. I learned that true power lies in lifting people up. That isn't just a moral platitude, it's a sound business strategy. The Mason Carter who had slapped Isabella Rossi was gone. In his place was a man whose life story now encompassed redemption, education, and a new sense of purpose. Evelyn Reed had surpassed every diversity and equity metric in her new division. The systemic reforms she spearheaded resulted in a 92% decrease in discrimination complaints company-wide. Her quarterly presentations had become models for effective corporate change management. David Chen now managed a team of 200 security professionals trained in his customer dignity and bias recognition protocols. His real-life accounts from the front lines of retail were instrumental in shaping policies that now protected millions of shoppers. The ripple effect spread far beyond Rossi Holdings International. 15 other major retail conglomerates had adopted similar apps and training initiatives. The Rossi model became the new gold standard for addressing workplace discrimination in corporate America. Isabella Rossi was featured on the cover of Forbes as Innovator of the Year. But she knew the true victory wasn't the personal accolades. It was the systemic change. Stories like hers were no longer viewed as isolated incidents, but as powerful catalysts for industry-wide reform. The financial results silenced any remaining skeptics in boardrooms everywhere. Rossi Holdings International's stock soared to all-time highs. Customer loyalty among diverse demographics surged by 160%. Employee retention improved significantly as staff felt safe and empowered to report discrimination. The most powerful stories aren't about individual triumphs, Isabella explained during her TED Talk, which garnered 20 million views. They're about how one person's courage can ignite collective action. When we share our life stories, especially the painful ones, we empower others to demand better. The incident that started with a slap had blossomed into a movement. The hashtag #JourRossi model was used by employees across dozens of industries to share their own experiences and advocate for better corporate cultures. But the most significant changes were often the ones unseen. The act of discrimination that never happened because a manager recalled Mason's story. The respectful service that was provided because employees truly understood their company's core values. The human dignity that was preserved because robust systems were now in place to protect it. Today, visiting Boutique 22 is a different experience. Customers from all walks of life browse without the fear of being judged. Employees treat every person with genuine warmth and respect. The granite floors still shine under the modern chandeliers, but now they reflect a culture of inclusion, not exclusion. Your voice matters. Your experiences matter. Your real-life stories can ignite the next transformation. Have you witnessed discrimination in a retail space, in your office, in your own community? Share your authentic stories in the comments below. Your stories of injustice and triumph deserve to be heard. Subscribe to Authentic Chronicles for more inspiring accounts of resilience, justice, and systemic change. Hit that notification bell, because every story of overcoming prejudice provides a blueprint for others to follow. Remember, true power isn't about settling scores. It's about setting new standards. Together, our stories can change every store, every workplace, every space where human dignity should be non-negotiable. What would you have done in Isabella's position? Tag someone who needs to witness this transformation. Share your own experiences. Let's build a community where every voice is an agent of change.